Hello and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Intimacy podcast. Today we've got another interview with another couple who also happen to be a married couple that are relationship coaches. It's Michael and Amy Stuth. It's a real honour and pleasure to bring these guys on, and they're going to be sharing their story, which is really beautiful. They went through a period of rupture and real disconnect at a really pressure cooker time of their relationship, and most importantly they share how they navigated that, which required them to do their own individual work, and they talk about why that was so important. And I think a lot of couples can relate to where Michael and Amy were, and so there's a lot of value here. Their lived embodied story shares so many key insights that I think a lot of people are going to relate to, because reality is all relationships come under really pressing hard times. And Michael admits himself he was just playing out the program of being a provider. And when Amy had the courage to really stand up and name her needs and what she was really wanting, and being courageous enough to speak to the lack of connection in the relationship, it really required them to grow. And they actually did that separately for a while. And then they came together, and we speak about the importance of, yes, the individual work, healing, growth, therapy, men's work, women's work, as a prerequisite and maybe a soft introduction to come into a greater self-awareness and connectionship. That's actually a pretty good word. Relationship with our emotions and our inner world, and then what it takes to be able to repair, to be able to create intimacy within that realm of growth and healing together. So Michael and Amy are a beautiful couple doing beautiful work, and when Greer and I connected with those guys, there was no sense of competition. They were just so open, so willing to talk and explore all of the intricacies and complexities of doing this work as a couple. So we really value their energy, their perspective, their wisdom, and there's a lot of value here in this podcast, so we hope you enjoy.
So welcome, Amy and Michael. It's so nice to have you on our podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's so great to connect with you guys again, and grateful for you guys having us here. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that you guys are opening up this audio kind of experience for people, to connect with you and the amazing work that you do. But we're so honored to be part of this.
Thank you. And we came across you guys years ago when we were first renaming our business, and when we saw you, and it was really interesting because when we found your website, we were like, oh wow, these guys are like kind of doing what we're doing, and they sound like they sound like really aligned. And what we both noticed is that rather than feeling competitive or coming into scarcity, and there was Aaron that said, babe, they're probably like our soul brother and soul sister. I'm like, oh yeah, like another couple on the mission for the right reasons, doing it with integrity. And so I just want to start by naming that was our first impression with you both, and that's continued along as we've maintained these threads of connection.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you. And we've also loved the connection. We don't have the connection with other couples coaches at all. And I guess like having the openness that I experience and we experience, like, transparent openness. We've created a thread together where we connect and just see how each other are going, in our facilitation, in what we're doing together, and also just personally. And I love that. I think that, that just highlights that there's no competitiveness at all, like in this space. That it's really just cheering each other on. So yeah, it's definitely beautiful.
Awesome. So let's start, if you'd both like to introduce, how you came onto your path and how you came onto doing the work that you do, and share with the readers and the listeners what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Should I start?
Yes, I'd
And
love
if
for
I
you to
miss
start.
parts, you can pop in there.
I will.
Yeah, so I guess our journey's been a bit of a long one to get to this point of where we are in our relationship and in the work that we're doing. But yeah, Michael and I met back in 2005. So it's like 21 years ago. So we've been in a relationship all that time, and it's definitely not been all roses and flowers, and it's not been a journey where we thought, oh, let's end up as relationship coaches helping other couples. Like, it's obviously found its path and its way, but back in around 2011, 2012, things were going pretty rough for us. We had 2 little kids, and Michael's working full-time as a paramedic. I was working part-time as a teacher, and juggling like 2 children, two little babies. They were both about 18 months apart, 20 months apart. So they're quite close. So it was a tough time. It was a really tough time. And in our relationship really suffered for it. I think out of everything, we ended up kind of really becoming disconnected and getting really lonely, I guess, ultimately in a relationship where we thought this was not meant to be how it, looks in the pictures. It's like, it's all good. It's all beautiful. We get married. We did a lot of travel when we were younger. We got married. We had the babies, we had the mortgage, and we had, tick, 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 tick. But yeah, the relationship was really, struggling. So it was got to this point of real disconnect for a couple of years where I was soul searching. Ultimately, I'm like, what is this? Where am I? Who am I? Why am I in this position? And I think it was a little bit more of my own journey into my own personal growth and self-development. I was sitting in women's circles. I was connecting with other mums, and I was kind of doing my own inner work. And I come to this realization where I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship like this. This is not how my life is. I was coming home really resentful, really angry. I was taking that out on the children. I couldn't understand why, but this is what everyone does. Like, it was a really confusing time. So I went on a bit of a journey into my own path and who I was. And I kind of, I guess I lost my identity as becoming a mum. Like, I didn't know who I was either. I'd become from a busy corporate sort of role into this full-time position. And I was like, this is what I wanted, but it's not what I wanted. And anyway, a lot of confusion. Ended up getting to the point where I ended up writing a letter to Michael because I just couldn't be here anymore in this space. I just couldn't understand how to reach him. I couldn't understand how to connect as much as I tried. So I wrote a quick letter, well, not a quick letter, a long letter, and just went, I can't do this. Like, something needs to change. I really miss us. I feel so alone. I don't even know who you are anymore. I don't know who I am. Like, how did we get here? And thankfully, Michael read that letter and really took it seriously. It was something that I think really, well, I'll let you speak for that, but it really changed your perception and understanding of where we were at too, right?
Yeah. So as a typical kind of, man who's just working full time, like, I was just trying to be the provider for my family, and I actually, maybe through that process, missed Amy's suffering and just hoped it would wane and disappear. And it's interesting because we work with so many couples now where he's kind of like seeing that there's not much wrong. It's, I don't see that there's much wrong with this picture and how things are going. It's just that you're unhappy. So I'm here to make you happy. And this is actually where, I guess, looking back now, my reference point, how I looked at the relationship and whether things were going well, is if Amy was happy or not. So when she was unhappy, which often she was in this phase, she felt isolated, alone. I was away for 8 days at a time. And when I'd come back, she'd probably hold a lot of resentment. So she'd dump that on me. Then I'd feel like I'm really just also like, what am I doing? I'm busting my guts here. And then I'm coming home and I'm treated with not really much respect and love and nurturing and care and all the things that I really desired in my wife and in our relationship. And she couldn't give it to me. She'd hardened because she'd put her protections up and that looked like spikes out, and that felt like coldness. And so it was destabilizing for me. And then when she wrote me the letter, it just basically crashed my entire world, and made me kind of really reflect on, well, how can I do it differently? Because I'm looking around and I'm not really seeing anyone else that's doing it differently. So yeah, I think I needed to start to look at my own patterns. And what was interesting is that this is when I started to learn that the feminine has this amazing superpower of intuition, and she can see my masks. And this is the thing that I was called out time and time again, but my ego wasn't willing to face that, right? Masks of a people pleaser, giving my attention and love to other people around me, making sure I'm liked, and then not having much left here. Avoidance masks, masks of just being a joker, right? Just someone who kind of is just a funny guy and can't really connect with anyone though, because that facade gets in the way. And so, yeah, long story short, we ended up going on our own individual journey of soul searching, but eventually we looked at the relationship and started to work on it together. And that's when things really started to change for us, because the vulnerability was required then. It wasn't us doing our separate work. So so now here we are, and like we're loving what we do and doing what we love, and it feels effortless. It's not easy. Like there's a lot of challenge in there, but that's the thing that we thrive on. That's the thing that we love, is kind of seeing people that are stuck in the same predicaments as what we were, and gently just guiding, guiding them back towards each other in a gentle way, while still knowing that it's not going to be a perfect, smooth ride.
Beautiful, guys. Thank you for sharing. And I can really feel the depth of where you guys have been and what you've had to traverse to get to where you are. And I've got a couple of questions for you both. And first, Amy, what was it that allowed you to summon the courage to actually write the letter? Because I know a lot of women end up in that position, but they just kind of sweep things under the rug. They just kind of settle for less, or they don't really summon the willpower, the courage to actually name it. And then, Michael, what I'd love to hear from you is, what is it that actually allowed you to be open to that feedback? Because I know quite often when a man gets called forth or called out, it can get up his defensiveness and like, well, why should I change? Like, you're the one with the problem, kind of thing. And the finger gets pointed back at the other person. And just one other final question is, when you both went on that individual journey and you said you were doing your own work, what did that look like? And then what was different when you said you were working on the relationship and you came together? Like, how was the individual work different from working on the relationship? So I know there's a lot there, but I really want to hear that.
Yeah, great question.
2 hours starts now.
Exactly. Love it.
Great questions.
Yeah. I guess I think that the question that you asked me was like, what took the courage to actually speak up about it and write the letter and hand that over? And I think there's a couple of parts to that. I think the answer is, and number one, it was like desperation. I didn't know what else to do. I was never very good at speaking. Like, I couldn't find the right words. Like I would think them in my head and have all this amazing like presentation that I wanted to share with Michael, but it just didn't come through at that time. I didn't have the ability to speak and share my truth. So writing helped me to get it out on paper. And it helped me to get it clearer as well, what I was really experiencing on the inside. And then there was a while there I wasn't going to give the letter to Michael. I was like, I think this is my own thing. And I got in my head and maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to get better. All that stuff, all that hesitation, that doubt, that fear, the anxiety of what this would mean if I gave it over. But the other part of the courage was actually from friends. It was actually like from a really good girlfriend. And she was kind of helping me through this stage. And she was just like, It's your truth. You need to share it with him. It's really important that he hears what you're doing. So there's a kind of I was grateful for that opportunity to have friends in that realm to help support me. So there's a kind of parts of that answer, but definitely tricky. If any of, I can definitely resonate that it's a scary moment, because that letter could have meant separation, right? But I was at the brink of like, I don't have anything else here, because I don't know any other solutions. And we weren't actively seeking counseling or anything like that, because we didn't know about that either. I think this is like, this is back in 2013. It doesn't seem like a huge amount of relationship coaching out there anyway in our world. So yeah, it was no other option. I had to figure this out or we'd break up.
And when I received the letter, I remember reading it in our bedroom on my own. And I think why I didn't maybe get defensive or, make it about me or blame her for her part in this and go down this line of further destruction was because of the language that she used in the letter. Like I really remember that she was really speaking from her own experience. She wasn't blaming me. She wasn't pointing the finger. She wasn't saying, you need to step up and you need to do this and do that. She was saying words like, I feel really lost. I'm lonely. I'm confused. I don't know like who we are anymore. And I don't know whether the current way that we're navigating through this time is sustainable. And I'm scared that we're actually going to separate. So those kind of vulnerable words allowed my heart, which was quite closed off at that point. As Amy said, I was a paramedic, so I needed to protect myself. Excuse me. I needed to protect myself from feeling, because otherwise I can't be good in my job. It's no good turning up on a job and just, falling into a heap and crying. So I needed to stay stoic and strong. And yeah, what I noticed was I've got my wife here, the mother of our kids, and she's just really speaking from a vulnerable place. So that helped me to stay open to her and not be defensive. So from there, like, how did we, to your other question, like what was the journey like from there? Like, yeah, how did it sort of go?
The individual work, first of all, like I think I'd already kind of started on that bit of the journey. That's why I guess I got the awareness of this wasn't right from the start. So that really helped, like help me to be a bit more clearer. So I was already kind of on that path, but I continued down that path a little bit deeper. And to be honest, I think from that point, that letter in our individual work, we almost kind of became more separate, Did you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I felt like we just kind of had to. I don't know. It's just like this evolution of where we were at. And we just kind of had to just like, look, I've got to do my thing. You got to do your thing. And let's just hold the space to see if this relationship can continue whilst doing this, But it was never a thought in our mind that we were going to break up. We were like, we'll figure this out. We will. But it was kind of maybe for a year of just doing our thing, right? Yes, we'd also be okay in the relationship, but it wasn't certainly flourishing or thriving or really feeling connected. But I kind of trusted. I don't know why. The hindsight, I look back and go, wow, that was actually a pretty individual time in our connection and our relationship. But I think we needed to give each other grace to see if we could hold that and go on that path, because Michael was off on his sort of journey and I was questioning his journey, where he was going, and I'm like, why are you going down that path? That's so interesting. But I just had to sit back and just allow that. And I'm grateful that I was able to do that, and him for me as well. So there was this kind of unspoken, I don't think we spoke about it. It was like this unspoken kind of understanding.
I don't think we're at that point where we could communicate to the depths of what we can now of our own experiences, because of the remnants of defensiveness and all those, those old patterns that we're still scared of. We didn't want to, things were fragile still. So, but what I witnessed in Amy from doing women's work, just really being around women and being vulnerable and sharing her experiences, is that she'd come back and she'd be different. Like, I noticed the way that she was talking to me. I noticed that there was a softening and a flexibility in the way that she was with me, and just allowing me to kind of just be me a bit more, and kind of
Not so controlling.
Yeah, the controlling aspect that triggers me
Mm.
wasn't as prominent. And so when I noticed that, I remember being a little inspired and thinking, you got women's groups, I got like friends, and we go to the pub, or we just hang out, or we just catch up and have a few beers. But what if men could have circles? Like, you know, what if men got together and we didn't drink? Like, could that be possible, right? And this was back in 2015. So I didn't know of any men's circles back then. We were in an isolated community. I had a fair few friends here in town, but I remember something intuitively came to me, and that was to gather the men. And that was when I started meditating in 2015. And when I started meditating, this overwhelming feeling come through me, that almost like a message that I need to gather the men together, but in a different way.
Mm.
And I was so scared of this. Like, this was something that was such an edge for me that I ignored it for a while. And then I started planting the seed with a few friends and saying, this is like the women, because our women, it was all our women, are going off in different circles. Well, what if we went out for a camp out and we just didn't drink, like, we just hung out? And I was so scared of planting that seed, but they all said yes. And we had 13 of us camping, no drinking, and we were the loudest ones at the campsite. But there was depth, there was connection, there was realness, there was rawness. And I knew at that point that there's something in this. Like, there's something in not dwelling in the facade and just being likable. There was something in kind of going, hey, like, let's just share to another layer deep and just see how this goes. And so that was my journey. That was the start of my journey of depth, depth and connection and truth. And then that richness came into our relationship, where we could now communicate better. Like, we could start to kind of like communicate vulnerably to each other. It wasn't going to be used against us. I really felt like the space was held for each other at that point.
Yeah, I clearly remember a conversation. There was one conversation that we had one night that was different from any other conversation we'd ever had. And we just did it organically and openly. And I was just like, whoa, that is different. Like, this is something that's changed now. Like, we felt heard. We each felt heard, even though it was like a really heated sort of topic that we would normally just separate or flare up. And yeah, but we stayed there. We stayed present. Yeah, clearly. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a big moment. And I remember, like, that's it. We've got this now. We can figure this out. And that was kind of when our relationship just started to deepen and grow. And and I guess we're here now in this space of helping other couples. And it was through, at the time, Michael was doing his men's coaching. I was dabbling in women's coaching, and we both kind of were in a business coaching container, but with our own businesses. And our mentor said, you guys need to work in relationships. And we were like, whoa, no way. I'm like, I'm not going into relationships. I'm barely figured this out ourselves. How the heck can I help other couples? Just kind of that seed was planted, and the belief was growing, and we're like, let's give it a go. And so we just started and organically kind of just found our path now where we are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much. It's so good to hear more of the backstory, because we knew some of it, but you've got in layers there. I'd love to hear what you've noticed within your own journey, and what you notice in clients when they come together just at the very start, when their journeys are coming together. What some of the common requirements? You've already spoken about the vulnerability, the honesty, the willingness to stay in the stickiness. So some of the requirements, and then some of the gifts of that, of what's the potential of and as background, I did a lot of women's work, and Aaron had done a lot of men's work before we were in relationship. And in my previous relationship, I was doing the women's work, and I just want to name the importance that if you're not in relationship with someone, at all, or if you're not in a relationship with someone who's ready to do the work, how powerful that men and women's work, and that's why we continue to offer that individually as well. But as you know, there's something that happens when you come together, and the depth of vulnerability. It's one thing for me to be vulnerable in front of women, and I was like, oh my god, it's just so scary. But then to do it with my partner, like, wow, that's next level. Especially like, you know, for us with sessions, because we have had mentors in our relationship when there's a couple looking on. We had a beautiful you know, older couple who've spent many, many years, and it's a big thing to reveal what's happening, not only with your partner, but then with other people listening. So what is the gift of that, and what lies on the other side?
Do you answer that? Do you want me to?
Yeah, I think when couples come to us, often they are both in with their protections and their guards up. So the language that they use, the body language that they have, the tone, maybe even the memories of the past have created lenses with which they see their partner through that's often negatively biased. So when they come to us, we look for a couple of things. And I know for us, like, and I'm sure you guys have your own process, and sometimes it's intuitive. For us, there's probably two main things. Is there an underlying love underneath the protection? So can I see that you both still, there's love there? It's just we can't work out how to connect. It's like two echidnas that they love each other, but their spikes are just kind of getting in the way. And then the other thing is respect. If they still have respect there, there's still a respect underneath all of that. And if that's true, then we're open to this, you know, to helping them. But if it's not, and the resentment's too deep, we have to be real. And you spoke about integrity. Like, this is where our integrity is really, I feel, is really strong, is that we're very honest and clear with them that we're not going to say that this can't be fixed or helped or anything like that. It's just that we you know, we may be out of our depth with this. Like, we can't help you here. And we can offer referrals to other people who we can recommend. But why it's important to, you know, you spoke about vulnerability and opening up the heart, and why that's, like, my judgment is that vulnerability is the only sustainable way to connect with your partner in the long term. Like, you know, we can change our behaviors and we can kind of speak nicer and we can do all these, you know, great behaviors, but underneath that is what I feel is what matters, because the bond, like that deep bond, can only be reestablished through that. And that's hard and that's tricky, because vulnerability takes courage, right? And like, will you catch me if I share this with you? Or will you become defensive and make it about you? And so there's this safety that needs to be established before that real vulnerability happens. And that's maybe perhaps what we were doing in our individual work, Amy and I. And then that organically happened for us. But yeah, what we facilitate is a bubble of safety. And it's like this surrogate safety kind of like bubble wrap, so that we can actually pull things up if we need to, and help them to show, hey, you know, I see that things got really hard for you there, you know, and then just teaching them about pausing and slowing down, and, you know, not necessarily blaming or poking. And why that's important is because if we can help them to open up their hearts to each other and then be held in that, then on the other side of that is sustainable depth, connection, love, respect. And it's actually, I think it can be continuous and continuously unfolding. So maybe like a lotus flower or something like that. It just continues to evolve. And Amy and I are continuing to evolve our depth. And yes, we have moments where we disconnect, of course. Like, relationships are not designed to be perfect. But I feel like we're continually evolving, and that's because our hearts are now open to each other in moments where we're sharing something.
I just want to quickly add, I think there's a point there that when you were saying, Greer, like what's something that's a requirement for a couple to like step into the work together, and what I think is really important is they both have a desire and they both have a want to do it. Like let's not dance around the bush, but like relationships are hard. So if there's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or there is like this lack of 100%, intentionality into wanting a better, happier, healthier relationship, then no matter what Michael and I do, and I'm sure you guys probably the same, but no matter what the coaches do or the counselors do, it's probably not going to really be sustainable or for the long term. So it's really that underlying, I don't want to give this relationship up. I want to be with this person, and I will do what I need and turn up and show up the best that I can. So I think that's a really powerful piece for some couples if they're listening, going, oh, are we, like, I've been doing my individual work and now I want this deeper relationship. I think it's also really important to reflect on what is it that you want and how can you show up better for that relationship.
And that includes accountability, right?
Taking accountability,
like having a look at
taking
yourself.
responsibility. Yeah. A lot of that self-reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's often probably the biggest block, that people aren't really actually willing to confront themselves and get really honest with themselves, because that can be really scary, because that could mean that facing the fact that they've been living a lie and they've been believing all of their assumptions or the lies that they tell themselves to justify staying comfortable, keeping it easy. And what comes to mind and heart for me is how, if we look to nature, everything is either growing or decaying. And I think long-term relationships, for that to be sustainable, for it to feel alive and connected, it requires us to grow. It requires us to change. And if we don't, then we stagnate. That's felt as a disconnect. It's felt as the land of bland, being roommates rather than lovers, that kind of dynamic. And what I heard from your story is how you found the skill, the capacity, and you also felt the power of opening up, getting honest and vulnerable, separate from each other, in safe spaces. And then once you, again, the skill, capacity, and the benefit of it, then you've come in together and done that. And I think that's a really good model for couples that are like right at the start of the journey, because the reality is, in relationship, we're also in attachment. Like, there's more stake in the game with those deep, vulnerable conversations. And while we're learning the skill, and while we're just building enough safety and security in ourselves to be vulnerable, it can be good to find that in spaces where there's not so much skin in the game, there's not so much on the line, and then come in together.
Yeah, and I think back to when I started my women's work, which was, I don't know, like it was a while ago, 2009, 2010. It was a while ago, that none of my friends that I'd known for 15 years or so were there. So it enabled me to see there was no one else who was reflecting back that self, that persona, the veils that I wasn't consciously holding. So I didn't realize how I didn't even realize that I had the veils. And that's the problem with shadow and blind spots, is that we don't see them. And B, they were all really healthy, loving relationships, as I could see. So I wasn't in toxic relationships. It was kind of all good, but it was only when I went into a completely new space where nobody knew me, nobody knew my history, my family, where I went to school, and I was asked these very deep questions, and I got to share in that very liberated space of people not knowing, and me knowing I wouldn't hurt anyone's feelings and that they wouldn't take it the wrong way. And then not only me doing that and sharing those like deepest, most vulnerable, most raw things that perhaps I've never spoken, that I had feared I'd be judged for, but then also hearing these other women share these things. And there's something very powerful happens when I realize that I'm not judging them. These are big things. And that, as you said, that creates that safety. And I'm loving this conversation because I think I had kind of lost touch with just how fundamental that was in my earlier journey. And that the benefit, again, for any listeners who are in relationship and the partner's not yet doing the work, just keep doing your work, because either you will, like with me, you know, that the relationship will get to a point where you're just actually no longer aligned. And the more I found, the more responsible where I was, the more love that relationship can kind of dismantle and separate. And then it aligns you to meet a partner who is doing that work. So yeah.
I think with that, I love that, you know, what you've said about kind of how that up level happened within you. And what I see a lot of the time is this growth that happens within someone is all about self-worth. It's all about recognizing your own personal value. And then at some point, like you said, it's either going to make or break your relationship. It's going to bring the relationship to this point where, okay, we both need to really lean in here, or it's like, I'm done with this because I respect myself enough to not put up with or tolerate with this disrespect or the way that you treat me, or, you know, whatever. Because the relationship, in my view, is a mirror, which is just like one of the most powerful mirrors for us to kind of see where maybe we're not free within ourselves. And and so this is also what we teach our couples, especially the ones that maybe have a bit more of an understanding about that and are really accountable and willing to kind of do their own personal work, is cool. Let's just use this relationship as kind of like a place where you can reflect back, you know, and challenge the ego, you know, challenge the identities, challenge the masks, and just see, like, how are they serving you? How is that behavior serving you? Like, and how do you see that? Like how does that impact your partner? Let's ask her. And just really finding out those pieces. And I think it's a journey of you know, back to own individual self-worth.
You know what I find really tricky, and I'm curious about you guys, how you guys deal with this. Is it okay if I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
I'd love to know, like, if you get couples in a relationship and where you've had like one of the partners like doing a lot of self-work and the other one's probably not as such. I just want to speak into the fact that I find it a little cringy, or the word like work, you know, doing this self-work. I don't know why, but I feel like it's also sometimes we put a label on this and then we're like, oh, you're better because you're doing the work and you're less than because you're not. So I also want to speak into, like, everybody is on their own journey. And when I refer to someone doing their work, it's more like they're like you were saying, Aaron, they're on their journey of growth. They're just evolving, they're growing. And yes, it feels sometimes like work, but it's also just part of life and our evolution, because we're either stagnating or we're growing. So I just want to speak into that piece. But yeah, what do you guys do in that scenario when like couples come to you and one of them's really kind of on that growth journey and the other one's stagnant?
Yeah. Well, I've got the inner work thing that I want to speak to first. And I call it inner work because it is work. It's fucking hard. It's hard, but it's also like inner work, it's inner worth. It's just coming into this deeper truth. And also 100%, it's so important to not have that judgment. And, you know, I could say that my previous partner, although he wasn't interested in inner work, he was very dedicated to his business work and other areas of work. So it's not, there's not a judgment. It's just this recognizing, is your focus, where is your focus? And are those focuses and those values and those deeper desires and needs within self and relationship, are they aligned? And because if they're not, it's problematic. So, yeah.
And I think if doing the work puts oneself on a pedestal and thinking that we're better, then you've got more work to do.
Yeah.
Because really self-worth isn't about being better than other people. because it just to the same degrees as it's not being less than others. It's about fully owning who we are, loving who we are, accepting our limitations, but also owning our gifts. That's part of the work. And when it comes to relationship, it becomes an invitation. It's like, this is what this person needs and desires. Are you guys aligned here? Is this what you need and desire? And getting really clear on that and getting on the same page in terms of values, vision, alignment of beliefs. And because ultimately, really growth is about unwinding our patterns of behavior that are unconscious and usually our conditioning and just what we picked up from our family or our culture, and undoing that conditioning to get more congruent with who we really are and our truth and our essence, and having the courage to live from that space. And because we're undoing patterns, those patterns are also in relationship. So the person that's doing that, they're going to stagnate. They're going to be limited by how much growth they can have at some point if they're not met with someone who's willing to look at those patterns and undo those unhealthy dynamics. And this is why triggers are doorways to intimacy, understanding, growth, healing. They're also like really challenging. They're happening for a reason. And this is why our path has been one not necessarily about getting to a point of serious conflict. It's what brought us together was this shared passion for growth, and we started as friends, so we cultivated that safety with each other, and ultimately
intimacy.
And ultimately our work together has been helping each other reclaim our enoughness and moving through our shame and being lovable for who we are and not what we do, essentially.
And in terms of how we work with a couple who, if there's one of them is in, and one of, firstly, it's natural to have one person being the leader. And what we've realized over time is, if a couple wants to come on a private retreat with us, we now require them to have an alignment call. We've made the mistake of having some couples come on without that, and we've recognized that it's that integrity piece. This actually isn't what you're needing or wanting or ready for, and it's not going to serve anyone. And B, that the couple will kind of get what they're ready for. And this is also why we're looking at actually restructuring some of our programs at the moment, because we're recognizing that it's actually quite few couples who are both really ready to go all in, and that it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask financially, but also time investment, and really, people have lives, and if they're not both all in, it means that they don't sign up because it's too much. And so we want to be able to meet couples where they're at better by kind of offering, like, what's the core primary need? Here's this part of the program. And so that's something that we're restructuring at the moment. Because if not, if one of you, it's natural to have a leader, but if you're not actually both in, it's not going to work. And that's why for the bigger programs, we require an alignment call now, just to make sure that that's the right fit for them.
Yeah, it's so important. I don't know, I have so much empathy, because I think I was in that position as the leader in our relationship and really wanting this to change. And when I see other couples that their partner's not so welcoming and on board, or not so, like Michael was, then I'm like, it just breaks my heart. But then I also trust that this is kind of what is meant to happen in their evolution of their relationship as well. So, I guess being in this work, we're empaths, we care, and we want the best for people. But sometimes, like you said, I think it's a good indication if the values are off, if their desires are off, if they're not really aligned in what they're wanting underneath, then it maybe is a reflection of looking deeper into what is the future of this relationship like. So I just wanted to speak to that in case any of the audience is listening, because we often get that, like we often get the one person reaching out for help, like, oh, my partner won't do this, my partner's not looking at it. So we've just kind of started to offer some other solutions for that person as well. Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah. So I'm curious, and this is a little bit like how long is a piece of string, but what do you find if a couple comes to you? It depends on where they're at as to what they need, but have you found that there is a particular time frame that couples need if they really, because all couples, even like for us, as Aaron said, we came together and we went deep into the work together from the get-go. So we didn't come with a history of a shared relationship, but we still had our childhood history and our previous, so there was still a lot to work through. Have you found that there is an amount of time of when you work with a couple that is really, a couple really needs this amount of time if they really want to go there?
Because I'm just thinking of, I can only think and speak into what the type of demographic of couples that come to us. And so typically speaking, you'll get any people generally from early 30s up to 60 years of age. They've been in a relationship with each other for probably 15 years or more. They've got kids together. Kids are probably close to maybe either young or they're teenagers or even adults, young adults. And the roommate energy, which you mentioned before, Aaron, is sort of like a that's the void that they're stuck in. It's normally distance, disconnect, it's disengagement and separateness that sort of crept in. They're longing for connection again, but it's awkward and they don't really know how to get back. And sometimes there's tension and communication sort of suffering and struggling. So for a typical couple like that, like we use 12 weeks as a benchmark, but there's no guarantees. And the reason why is because the first thing that we look to establish is emotional safety, and there's no guarantee of even that stage being achieved. Like we've worked with couples where we can't get them to the point of emotional safety, and there's times when I look at us and go, "Wow, are we doing enough? Are we serving them enough?" But the truth is sometimes the resentment cuts so deep and the lens is so obscured with this negative sentiment override that it's actually almost impossible for them to kind of open their hearts again. So but for the average couple, we get through that stage, and hopefully within 4 weeks, and then from there, generally how we see things happening is once the emotional safety is there, which to me means I can be myself without fear of criticism, rejection, these kind of things, then we can start to move into structures and frameworks and kind of like, okay, cool, let's just build the framework now. Like, how do you communicate? Then we can move into intimacy and sort of like the deeper stuff. But until the emotional safety is there, we can't move on. Like it just, So generally speaking, we base it on a 12-week, process. But sometimes that can be longer where couples work with us, like maybe just once a month after that for a while, just to really ingrain and integrate some of these learnings. And sometimes it takes a lot longer.
Yeah, we found the exact same thing.
All right.
And in terms of, we've come to like 6 core needs of awakened intimacy, we called it, and it's kind of like a pyramid, but they all dovetail into one another. But what we know for sure is that foundation is safety and security. And the thing with rebuilding trust is it takes reps, it takes evidence, and it's really easy to break and damage. It's like one of the easiest things to damage and break, and one of the hardest things to rebuild and repair. And it takes reps, and that's something that I share with couples is like, if you need to rebuild trust and safety with one another, you're going to have to provide evidence. It's not something you can just affirm. It needs to be backed up with behavior, and it's a skill that can be learned. But ultimately, you're going to be confronted with real vulnerability, a lot of fear because your nervous system is expecting a repeat of the past. And you got to deal with your own body and shaky nerves, and you got to be able to contain that and be with it, but also not let it run the show. So it's really big, and it is the foundation we've found.
Yeah, we tend to teach the safety and trust and vulnerability like an infinity loop. And so if I want to trust Aaron, I have to be willing to be vulnerable. And then it's almost not a test, but it's like it's an opening. And if he meets me, then that closes that trust loop. And so then I might take a bigger vulnerability. But again, if I get out all that to here and then I'm met with nothing, I'm back here again. And as you shared earlier, having a call and having guides to support the couple, we become that safety container to support them in the moment, so that if it's starting to go downhill, we can stop. Wait, take a breath, let's come back. And it's needed. It's that scaffolding and that support structure is needed if a couple, are wanting to rebuild.
Yeah, it's such a game of nervous systems. I think, it really is relationships, if we can get better at regulating our own nervous system and staying in that discomfort and being there with our partner when they're sharing something that might feel triggering, or it's so much to it, isn't it? There's so many layers and learnings, and retraining, I guess, ultimately is what's needed for a healthy relationship.
The one thing I love about you guys, and this is where we've sunk into in recent years, is that there is an element of intuitiveness that needs to come into this process too, because we can sit here and teach a 12-week program, right? We can just sit here and give the cookie cutter. This is what you need to do. This is how you speak to each other. This is the communication strategy. Just do these things and it'll be better. But everyone has their own individual wounds and things that crop up, right? So like being live on a call with people that understand this dynamic is, I can't even put a value on that, because like, I don't know, like we just speaking with a couple recently, multiple trust breaches, infidelity, both sides. That's happened historically. And now her nervous system is expecting him to do the same thing again. And so he's going to the gym, and it's, his ex-partner or someone he's been with is also going to that gym. Now in her mind, like, she's thinking he's going there to hook up with her. No doubt in her mind, she's getting her nervous system sending her messages. She's starting to kind of like imagine it as if it's already happening right now. He comes home, he's getting ready for the gym, he cops an explosion. He's like, that's completely unwarranted. Where did that come from? So she's in fear and doubt and scarcity and all these things. And so the way that she manages that is she controls and like gets angry, gets explosive, gets like really, really loud. That's the very thing that triggers him. And he's just basically said, F off, I'm done, right? Like, I don't need to put up with this. So her nervous system was communicating to her that there's something threatened here. And so the very thing that she's really holding on to is now completely in her mind. She's made up a story that it's capitulated. That wasn't really happening, but the nervous system is sending that message. So yeah, it just shows, like what you said, Aaron, that trust can just be built up in it, but there's so much fragility in there where it just takes a moment, to just like crash the whole thing down again. And so that's why it's so precarious when there's been trust breaches. It doesn't necessarily mean infidelity. Trust breaches of saying you're going to do something and you don't do it. This is the things that, like in integrity you spoke about. I'm still working on this stuff. Like I'm still like, at times letting Amy down, letting friends down. Like, I don't know why this pattern is there for me, and I'm definitely way better at it, but I can see the impact on it now. I can take ownership on it. I can do my best to kind of get better at it. And that's really what I think that this is about. It's not being perfect. It's having the willingness to look at myself, reflect, and then say, yeah, I see that. Yeah. And I see you're hurt from that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. One final thing I want to add into that is, you mentioned how we've all got our personal, unique traumas and history and stories. Something that I really emphasize is that, yes, that is true, and yet we all share the same emotions. So my story of what makes me, or historically has fed into my shame, is very unique to me, but yet that core emotion of shame is felt the same.
Yeah.
So to the degree that I can be in touch with my grief, my fear, my shame, is to the degree that I can be with it and hold space and not react if that comes up in my partner.
Yeah.
And this is also in terms of like one person that's growing and one person that isn't, is that the person that isn't is also going to become unsafe for the other person's emotions, because part of growing is expanding our bandwidth and capacity to be able to be with uncomfortable emotions and not suppress them, but also not let them take over and run the show either. And because I see this quite a bit in men who aren't emotionally literate or don't have a big bandwidth for uncomfortable emotions, is they become really uncomfortable in the presence of their partner when she's expressing her grief or her shame, and it just totally erodes that intimacy, that vulnerability. She doesn't feel safe to express herself because it's not going to be heard, seen, met, understood, validated. And so that's another way in which, if both aren't in it together, that it's going to eventually at some place hit a ceiling or dissipate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I see that too, man. Like, just that emotional literacy, I think you called it. And it's really, that's just programming, right? Like that's upbringing, product of environment, where emotions weren't really kind of met perhaps in the early years. And like there are ways through this, like, and it's capacity. I think you used the word capacity before. It's like, can I build that to stay present in this discomfort? I'm noticing that this is full on for me right now. She's kind of sharing that she's not happy. It also has to do with me. Like, for me, this comes back to our story right at the beginning, is that I thought happy wife, happy life. I thought as long as she's happy and smiling, then we're good. So then my reference point becomes she needs to be okay. She needs to be okay. So if she's not okay, that's when I become destabilized. Then there's no grounding in this relationship. There's no rock. There's no, and so she feels like she's just floating around in the breeze. Yeah, it's an important part is the that masculine containment for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and another thing that I wanted to just mention as well, just in that example you gave around the man going to the gym and the woman having her history and expectations triggered as fear in a nervous system, part of also being on the same page and doing the work together is supporting one another and knowing what each other's needs are to feel secure. So him being 100% responsible would also look like communicating to be able to lessen her fears and not make her wrong for the fact that she is fearful and uncertain. She's just got to get over it, just kind of wiping it under the table. It's communicating. It's look, I know that person's going to be at the gym. I just want to let you know that I'm just going to be in my own energy. I'm going to be doing this and I'll be home by this time. And communicating that and then following up that communication with behavior would be a rep in rebuilding the trust. Because one of the most dysregulating things, I've said this quite a few times, is uncertainty. The more certainty we can give our partner, the more regulated they can be. If we just ghost and disappear and don't communicate, it will trigger uncertainty and that will register in the system as a threat, and then those survival patterns are off to the show, and it's about me and my needs, not about us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that gym example is a good example, because I get why he might be in the space of like, what, don't you trust me, and take that offensively. And I also understand why she would feel incredibly uncomfortable about that. And especially if it hasn't been spoken to. And this is where that, we talk about taking 100% responsibility for our heart, and why even when we are doing the work together, which we are all in, balls deep, and love, we both have our own practice of a morning. We both do our own nervous system regulation, and we do, we tune into what it is that we need individually, so that we can be relationally sovereign, so that we're fully responsible for our half. And the thing about having that, the nervous system, and if the woman's feeling anxious in response, her body's responding, it's so tricky. I work in female embodiment and nervous system regulation, and healing from the traumatic imprints that we have. And it's like, until we rewire the memory and the trauma, our body's going to tell us, oh my God, it's like he's at the gym, I just know it's, and we'll have the anxiety, I just know it. But that learning what's the trauma response from the past versus when those layers are cleared and we're soft and we're calmer, it's a very different intuition. It's not a coaching, it's this deep knowing that's not a good idea that he goes to the gym, or it's okay, he can go to the gym. But so the body can be a source of immense wisdom and intuition, and she can always also really fuck us up.
Yes.
So that's why we've got to keep doing the inner work, even when we are doing the work together. And then I think what makes it even where the intimacy lies is, let's say Aaron shares XYZ, and I like, wow, I really noticed that in my heart. Like my heart was really, and like I shared something to you the other day. Do you remember what I shared? You said, oh, that really hurt my heart. Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
It was something like, oh, and then I can, meet him in that beautiful tender and give his heart a little rub. So, and then it's healed. That little thing, just like, that, I can't remember what it was. I said something. Yeah. So,
yeah, the power of just speaking your truth, hey, like just really what's happening for you.
Yeah,
it's so important.
We went through a phase maybe a week or two ago where we were just suppressing our truth. Like we were just like shoving it down, both of us. And then it just got to this point where we're on a group call with other couples.
We were facilitating
and we put it on mute and just let them work out their processes. And while they were on mute and doing their own thing, like we were having a little kind of like moment, weren't we? where I was like, well, you've been doing this, and you've been doing that. And then we end up going, maybe we should have a dialogue about this after the call. Do you think? I'm like, yeah, I reckon.
Let's just do it now.
And within 5 minutes, this is how fast our repairs are now.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, we work through this. To like work through a week's worth of moments where we just were missing each other and where things didn't land. And when you did this, that made me feel like that. And then, but we communicated in a really healthy way. And then we come out the other side stronger.
Like, why didn't we do that like 5 days ago? Why have we left it this long? We get stuck in our heads and all this stuff.
It was cool doing it on a group call though.
Yeah, we've done it on podcasts, haven't we? We've episodes and something happens.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's unpack it now.
And our live workshops, we've had a few triggers, and it will always be in relation to what we're actually teaching. And so then everyone's really great teaching because we're there.
It's authentic, it's
real. Yeah.
This is what I love about you guys.
Yeah. So do you guys, just to close, we'd love you to share anything you've got coming up, any in-person events or anything that you want to share about your work.
Yeah, amazing. We have a couple of one-day retreats. We've just launched our first one down the Sunshine Coast. It's not until September. That's on our website, and another retreat up here in Agnes Water as well. That's on the 8th of August. So yeah, they're the kind of events that are coming up. We do have an online workshop that's at the end of the month. It's just an hour. But yeah, that's all roommates to lovers, and people join from anywhere to receive a little bit of insight on how to start to shift that dynamic a bit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anything that you guys want to share just to end off on?
just that we're so grateful to connect with you guys. And yeah, it's just really nice to see another couple doing this work and helping reach more couples to have a happier, thriving relationship. I think that's what the world needs. I believe it's at the core of everything, is your relationship, because if your relationship is solid, then I've seen the ripple effects out there. The families are more solid, the work relationships, you know what it's like. So I just want to say that, it's amazing what you guys are doing, and it's really nice to to connect and join you guys on this podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate your time, your energy, sharing. So honestly, it's been really valuable.
We'll drop your website and details in the call notes.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.